Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got a special guest on. We have Mr. Middleton. If you didn't know who he was, if you're watching the video, if you listen to the podcast now, you know he's here. He's speaking at our event tomorrow for our clients. So we thought we'd kind of take advantage of the opportunity and have him on to speak to everyone as well.
Double whammy there. Podcast,
you know what it is?
And event.
It's economical.
You're getting your money out of me.
It's economical.
I like
it. If you're gonna pay travel, you might as well use it for as much as you can.
This is a fair play to you. Fair play. Good to be here. Good to be here.
So I think we spoke a little bit before. It was really difficult to kind of figure out what to speak to you about, to be honest with you, because there's a lot, first of all. And secondly, I probably don't want you to have to repeat the same shit that you've probably had to do on like 4,000 other podcasts. You've got a book, haven't you?
I've got 5 books.
He's got 5 books. I've got 2, to be fair, and I've read one of them.
Go.
Yeah.
Which one?
The first one, I think.
Which is First Man In. First Man In.
Oh, no, I think I've read 2. Which is actually like quite an achievement, because I'm one of those people that like I feel better when I buy books because I feel like I'm doing something with them, but I never read them.
You never read them. They just pile up.
My mentor's got a book I've never read, and I've got 2 copies because I bought it twice meaning to read it and actually forgot that much.
So when you look at it, do you actually feel like you're absorbing any of it? Does it make you feel better even though you've not picked it up?
You know what?
Just looking at the cover.
I was like a big... fucking got my non-fiction and fiction fucked up now. I think fiction's like the story one, right?
Yeah.
I'm showing my intelligence.
Fiction's story, non-fiction is
I
factual.
actually used to read fiction. So like when I was younger, which is weird because I probably shouldn't have been reading it, but I used to read like Chris Ryan books when I was a teenager. Like it was huge for me. My dad used to read Andy McNab, but I think that's like a slightly different age bracket.
Now they're about the same era, same sort of stories, same sort of style of writing. Great guys.
So have you done any of that?
Yeah, so I've done 5 non-fiction and 2 fiction, Cold Justice and Red Mist.
I'm definitely going to get them because actually I love an army fiction book. I feel like I'm.
But they're fiction mixed with non-fiction, if that makes sense. Because obviously, when you write non-fiction, I can only write certain things. But with fiction, when it comes under fiction, I can sort of blend the 2 worlds together. So people read it and they go, "But you were actually in France during this time." I'm like, "Yes, I was." Did you do that? I'm like, "That. Listen, read the story." And
for any names or people that are mentioned, there's absolutely fucking no chance you can sue me because it's fictional.
There you go. You know it's all too well. Listen.
It's all the kind of been sued once, funnily enough. So I've learnt my lesson, which no one tells you. Well, to be fair, they probably wouldn't need to in school, but like no one tells you like how to not get done for slander. Yeah. No one prepares you for any of this. So like when you get your first defamation and slander letter, you're like, hang on a minute, I'm not allowed to say what I want. And they're like, no, not really.
Yeah, normally you could go around, threaten someone and they'd drop the case. But even that nowadays is,
this guy lived in Hollywood, so it was a bit of a fucking trip to send the boys around to his door. Right. That's a big favour, that. Lads, can you get on the plane to California?
That's a good thing about the military, we're all intertwined. It's just like, right, on to the Navy SEALs. Guys, can you do me a favour? Yeah, no problems. Make this guy disappear easily.
There we go. Allegedly. If anyone does go disappearing.
Fictionally.
Yeah. I fucking missed what I'm going to talk about on the podcast now. I've gone right down a tangent. You know what would be really, I'm just going to ask you a load of shit that I want to know, and then we'll fucking, if people enjoy it, but I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah, good.
How does it feel like, obviously you went from a military background. I mean, I can't remember from reading the book how you actually end up in the military, but I'm assuming you didn't go into it with an English literature degree.
No.
How does it kind of feel like doing all that stuff and then being like, I've got 5 books and I'm an author?
Do you know what? It's quite a segue. When you join the military, I joined the military because I wanted to be self-sufficient. I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. I joined at the age of 16. It gave me a small pay packet, a roof over my head, some food and a challenge, which I wanted at the age of 16. Progressed through. I found out that I was good at what I'd done and just naturally progressed from the paras to the Marines to the Special Forces to being a sniper, a team leader, etc., etc. And then when I was 32, my watch is going mad. I don't know what for. Sorry. When
it's
I was 32,
not your heart, is it?
No, it's right, can you imagine that?
You just got to check, haven't you?
Actually, I have had my booster, so no. We won't get into that. So when I left at 32 because I'd already done 3 tours of Afghanistan, Northern Ireland, Macedonia, Sierra Leone, and I'd done what I set out to do. So I thought, do you know what? I'm 32. I'm young enough for a new career. I've got all this life experience, which is hugely important, that I can bring with me. Just get out there and see what's about. And TV sort of fell into my lap. I was doing the whole security thing, as we do. We leave, we go on the circuit, do security. That's sort of the next step. And then I got a phone call saying, "Ant, got this idea. Want to put normal, everyday civilians through United Kingdom Special Forces selection, but a condensed and diluted version. You up for doing it?" And literally, I had the meeting, and within a couple of weeks, we were filming. And after the first series, it sort of blew. Everything blew from then. 2016 it aired, filmed in 2015, aired in 2016, and I've never looked back since. From then, it's just been TV, tours, books. I sort of broke the mold from the Special Forces because, you heard of your Andy McNabs and your Chris Ryans and the fictional books, but you could never put a name to a face. Well, I sort of blew that wide open. I came out, I was just like, right, I'm ex-Special Forces, I'm on TV, you can see who I am. Then I started doing tours. Again, never been done before, huge tours, which were really successful. Then it progressed onto books, non-fiction books again, which was, never done before. So I sort of blew the lid off what was expected of me when I left to a great career in TV, film, literacy. And so, I went, I love my books. The thing about you mentioned books. And when I did join, I had no qualifications, but I absolutely love my books because, when you sort of think to yourself, I wish I would have worked harder at school. I wish I would have learned. I wish I would have paid attention to this. Had a bit more knowledge and a wider education. I sort of can relive that now through my books. Yeah. So I love my books.
I'm sure you've had a very different kind of education, but I'm sure you've had a much wider education than like 90% of the population have had, really.
Yeah, do you know what? I say there's two types of education. There's the type that happens between the four walls, which is school, which is great. And then the type that happens on the four corners of the world, which is travel, exposure, life experience. If you can incorporate the two, you're winning. That classroom education along with that world education. But mine was the opposite. So I didn't have the class education because it wasn't for me. But the world education or the life experiences that I've had through travel, through the situations that I've put myself in, through being in the military, through climbing Everest, through climbing K2, through putting myself in these situations, has been absolutely invaluable for me to crack on in life and to really know what's real, what's not, what's right, what's wrong, and it gets me in trouble sometimes because I know what's out there. I know the way of the world. I know how things work, and sometimes it can be a curse rather than a blessing because, I've been there, I've seen it. I can't unsee what I've seen. I can't unthink what I know. It's a double-edged sword. But if you can incorporate the four corners of a classroom with the four corners of the world, education, you're winning.
Why do you think that you said like all this stuff that like never been done before? Like, is there a reason why it hadn't been done before? Like,
yeah, it just wasn't the done thing. Social media was never a thing.
True.
Back in the day. The Secrecy Act that I'm bound to sort of says, that I can't be filmed and I can't, sort of give away my identity. But the world is changing. I was in the Special Forces. As long as I'm not giving away any national security, which I'm not, or any, sort of drills and skills, again, which I'm not, then, I'm not really in breach of the Secrecy Act. So it's a case of I felt like when I left that I had this wealth of knowledge and experience. It's like going to university, getting huge qualifications, not being able to use them.
Right,
leaving.
Yeah, you got to put that in a bucket now. And
exactly, you can't use them now. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I've got a family, I'm a family man. I've got ambitions, opportunities that came along. And I thought to myself, right, I can either hide in the shadows and continue to hide in the shadows, or I could break free and do my own thing. But I've always done my own thing. But the positive thing about this is, someone brought it up the other day, the expansion that I've had since I've broken that mold. You know, you've got ex-special forces people that are now going into TV that would never have happened before. Your ex-special forces guys that are going into, you know, doing tours, doing books, you know, non-fiction books that are going, you know, fiction books were done, but the non-fiction books, you've got people that are going into TV. You've got people on social media that don't need to blur their faces out. You know, they're selling all sorts. They're doing really, really, really well. You've got even Marines now that are doing, you know, they're dressing up in the black t-shirts, you know, the beards, you know, in the Marines you're not allowed beards, but they're taking on that concept of what I've sort of the foundations that I've made over the past 8 years. But it's really, really positive because, you know, especially in the military, we talk about mindset, you know, people leaving and not having a purpose, you know, losing their identity, sort of losing their way, PTSD. This gives them another outlet to express themselves, whether it's through PT, personal training, whether it's through day camps, military day camps, whether it's through mindset mentoring. You know, I sort of encapsulate all of that, and you know, it's great to see them go, right, bloody hell, you know, I can springboard off Ant's platform and do this, and it's really, really positive. So, you know, even though I take a lot of headshots, you know, from military personnel and from the hierarchy in the military.
I think that's because you're the one putting your head up there to get fucking shot at.
Because I'm trailblazing. Yeah, the trailblazer always gets the shit, right? Because
you're taking it for all the rest of them.
Exactly, but I love that because, you know, what I love about it is because I'm doing that and you see more and more fortification behind me. You know, I look behind and I've got this, you know, these solid people who are still in the game, who are still on social media, who are still, you know, doing well with their businesses, who are still on TV. And you're sort of that angle is becoming wider and wider, which is really, really, really positive because not only does it give hope to ex-military personnel, but also gives them a new exciting career path rather than jumping in security.
You're probably taking less pressure as well as that gets wider a little bit as well.
No, believe it or not, I don't. But it's really, really positive because, you know, you got this veteran community outside that does CP, and I'm finding that I'm creating this veteran community in TV, in you know, touring, in books, in literacy. You know, it's almost like a new movement, which I'm really, really proud of.
No, I think so. That's I've noticed it in our market. So like in personal training, especially like the fitness industry as a whole, it was very much like either you did a military boot camp or that was it. Like if you were in the military, you either went and did a boot camp or you did fuck all and you just you just shelved it. But now people are way more inventive with it. So now you get like the military mindset coaching, which is, you know, like people go trekking and they do like I think it's called tabbing or something like that.
Tabbing,
You do like the tabbing kind of stuff, like the outdoors kind of stuff, like, and even just, I think non-military people, I'm assuming there's both camps, but like a large majority of people, at least where I'm from, there's a bit of like romanticism about the whole like army, SAS thing. And like, to me, the closest I ever got was Chris Ryan and fucking Call of Duty. However close that is to what it is, I have no fucking clue.
Listen, I don't play it, but
I spent my whole teenage years sat on that thing like after school, like with your mates. But
it's huge. It still is huge.
People buy into it, and it's a huge thing. And like, I think for what you've done is, from what I know as well of like friends that have either been in the army or left the army, they've only ever really gone down two paths. It's either been, like you said, close protection. I've got mates that are still out there doing it in like Middle East and stuff 100%,
like that. 100%, yeah.
Or kind of some kind of either security management, PT, or for maybe the ones that were like officers and stuff like that, they go into like project management roles. That's like, oh, you're really organized and disciplined. Here's a job that requires you to be organized and disciplined.
People management, basically. Yeah.
But I feel like if you go into and do something like the special forces or like the army, I feel like you're a particular kind of person that needs a particular kind of stimulus. And I don't know whether project management really kind of scratches that itch.
Do you know what? It depends what you throw yourself into, because we're very adaptable in the military, especially the special forces and the Marines, the more sort of elite conventional forces. And we're very adaptable. So it frustrates me when I see ex-military leave at that level and then they don't adapt to civilian life. You know, you've adapted to become one of the best soldiers in the military. and you're telling me you can't adapt to become maybe the best civilian in what you
Yeah.
do. It's because it's such a mindset shift, because they are completely two different worlds, that they can't deal with it. It's something because they leave a percentage of who they are in the military. You know, they believe that they owe the military something, and if anything, the military owe you. You owe nothing to the military. So get your head out your ass when you say, "Oh, once a Marine, always a Marine." It's like, you're not in the Marines anymore. Yes, that you should be proud of that. You should bring forward the positive traits of that.
Yeah.
But they don't look after you anymore. They don't pay your bills. They don't look after you. All these charities are veteran-run charities. You know, the military. Once you're done, you're
Imagine
done.
it's like being an athlete, innit? Like you snap your ACL, like see ya.
You're done. It's like being a footballer, professional footballer. You're
Club
done.
aren't going to pay you to you like.
They don't. Then so why? You know, it's great to have an interest, and it's great to to revisit your past with your pals, but don't engulf yourself in it. Don't allow that to be the percentage of you more than who you are now, or who you want to be, or what you want to get involved in. You know, we have this horrible tendency, and I done it for a bit, of getting into it and just thinking that I was still in the military. And it's like, you're not in the military anymore, man. Stop adhering to their rules. Stop adhering to their language. Stop adhering to their ways of life, because you are in Civvy Street, and they are two completely different worlds. And once I understood that and was honest with myself, what I put my hand to, I flew, because I knew that I was very adaptable. I knew that, right, if it excited me and it was a new opportunity and it was different and I'd learn something different and grow from it, then, whether I believed I could do it or not, I'd always commit to it. I'd always go, do you know what? I'm going to give that a go. Like TV, I'm going to give that a go. Never been in, if anything, it was like any cameras around when I was in the Special Forces, I'd be ducking and diving and weaving, really paranoid, thinking they're trying to get me on. And then all of a sudden it's like, Ant, talk to this lens. And I'm like, what? And I talk to this lens. And I can remember just feeling really, really awkward and getting quite aggressive and going, well, just put someone behind, I want to talk to something or something, but then you get used to it. And what I loved about it was the fear of it getting the better of me. Talking to a camera and, sort of having a script and learning different scenes. It would frustrate me, but when it frustrates you, it means that it's challenging you. When you just get frustrated because you want to take the easy option and go, I'm not doing it, and get yourself out of that situation. That's the easy option. You're never going to learn. You're never going to grow from that. But when I felt that fear and I felt that pressure and that frustration, I was in a battle with myself. I was like, no, you will do this again and again and again and again until you've got the upper hand on it. Because the moment it's got the upper hand on you, something's defeated me. Something's got the better of me. Yeah. And that's not who we are in the military. That's not what, if we'd done that with the enemy, we'd be the worst military in the world, because we do. You look at the enemy and you're faced by him, and of course you want to get out there, but you're like, right, bang, you're used to that commitment. You're used to, right, let's see how this goes. And I think, with a lot of military people, they've got that in them, but they just need to be honest with themselves. And that's what sort of mental health, that's the epitome of mental health. It's like everything starts with you. Be honest with yourself. The moment you can be honest, and I'm talking about brutally honest with yourself, the moment you can be brutally honest with yourself, you can start to understand things. When you understand things, guess what? You can start to process it. You can start to break it down. You can start to make it manageable. And then you can start to execute what needs to be done, whether it's percentage at a time, piece by piece. But the moment you're not truthful, you hide from the truth, and you're not truthful with yourself, then when I say to people, if you lie to yourself, all you're going to do is live a lie. And it's so true. And I guess the only person that's going to find you out is yourself. You can lie to people, you can blag it, you can try but it will come back round, and you'll end up at the very fucking beginning, at the start, having found yourself out, and you will feel like a right twat, because I've been there.
I think sometimes there's an element of having to do that and figure that out for yourself. It's like one of them when people tell you to get fucking personal injury insurance, and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. And then you don't, and then you break your leg, and then you fucking can't work, and you're like, should have got that, fuck.
But
it's almost like a hindsight thing, isn't it? That you have to kind of go through all of that process and then be like, okay, that got me fucking nowhere. It's probably got to be a different way of doing it.
But it's a process you need to go through, because then the more you expose yourself and repeat the process, the more you get used to it. And the more you get used to it, the more you start to control it. The more you start to control it, the more you can make it work for you. The more you make it work for you, the more you learn and the more you grow from it. So it's a cycle. I know when I'm going through that cycle, it's like hitting a pain barrier when you're going, when you're up in the mountains or you're working out, and you know that pain barrier is coming. And a lot of people will quit before that pain barrier, but I almost look forward to it. I know it's coming, and I think this is going to be the next hour or two is going to be disgusting. But I know once I break that pain barrier, then I get a new lease of life, and my body because it gets used to the pain. You can only, have so much pain in the body before it numbs out, and then you go again. It's like that with my career. I think to myself, right, you're going to go through the mixer here. You're going to go through the mill, and I almost embrace it. I look forward to it because I know I'm going to learn something new. And when you learn something new, you grow from it. And again, it's all about becoming a better version of who you are. So I embrace those moments only because I've put myself through the extreme that I can learn to do that. I would say do it little by little, but just, when you feel uncomfortable, all that is your body preparing itself to step into the unknown. It's like fear. It's like, you're fearful of something. All that is your body saying, get ready, get ready, get ready. You're going to step into the unknown. And when you step into the unknown, guess what? Whether you succeed or not at what you've committed to, you're going to learn something because you've stepped into the unknown. You're like, whoa, this is I don't need to commit again because, success is over. I'm not worried about success or failure, but I've committed. I'm in this new space now. You start to take it all in. Well, that's enough for me. For some people, they might step out of it, but you've taken that layer off. All you need to do is expose those emotions or expose whatever and repeat the process. The next time might be the next step onto the next lily pad. And it's like, I'm in a new space here, take it all in. And that's what growth is all about. And that's what commitment is all about. Failure and success is a man-made product. Your failure and success will be completely different to mine. Do not take others' failures and successes on board because, you might do an exam, but it's maybe that job's not for you. Maybe that will then give you the mental resilience to go, right, or the direction to go, that's not for me. I'm glad I've done that because now I know that's not for me. And you'll take a completely different path in life. Yeah. And that's what life is all about. And you will bounce in life like this. You'll never get to your final destination. You never become the best version of yourself because that doesn't exist. Then you become perfect. And that doesn't exist. So I'll always say to people that cycle will always come back around, but you need it. The moment you feel that gut wrenching, oh, here we go, then you're doing something right in life. You're heading in the right direction.
I feel like that's a really interesting point because I think that with a lot of people, when they come to us about business, it's like, when you said about taking that next step, it's about, there isn't a standard step for everyone, isn't it? It's about some people can take bigger steps and they can tend to accelerate faster. Yeah. Some people have to take smaller steps because if they try and do that, they can't get through it in one step. They have to take 3 or 4. But
it's because they understand it, right? It's like I always say to people, don't try and digest something or move forward something if you don't understand it. Because a lot of people, they're scared to ask questions. They're scared to look like the idiot in the room, right? But you might be given a task, might be given a job, and you might understand at 80-90%, but there's that little niggling 10% that you don't understand that will completely engulf the whole project because it's like, I don't know, which will have a huge effect on you moving forward or getting the job done. And we have a horrible tendency of looking at the negatives within us, and they completely engulf us rather than the positives. So I understand 90%. Do you know what? I'm going to go to you and I'm going to ask you about this other 10% because if I can tackle this job 100% and I can understand it, then when things go wrong, I can know I know where I go wrong. I can't blame it on the 10% and go, well, I didn't know about that 10% of what the job that you gave me. Therefore, you can sort of palm it off. It's the easy option. There's my excuse. There's my get out clause. Because all that would do is just come around and bite you in the ass again. It's about understanding, but it's about each other as well. Just looking at each other and going, right, being there as a team is huge. Life is one big team. You cannot do anything by yourself. I don't care how brilliant or awesome or great you think you are. Behind every great successful man and woman, there's a huge element. The cog of the team is huge. The success is tiny little person, and that's in the form of a man or a woman, right? But the team behind it is absolutely huge. But again, just understanding it. I will take something. If it takes me 2 weeks to completely understand it before I tackle it, I'll guarantee you I'll get the job done a lot quicker than someone that's taken it on board and then just trying to figure it out on the, they always come back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until they get the job done. And again, people understand things, take things on a lot differently, and that's where teamwork comes in. How do you operate? How do you function? Right, this is how you work, this is how you function, right? We should know each other like that and help each other out.
The only thing that's come to my mind while he was saying that is how I tackle flat pack, and I'm definitely doing it the wrong way.
Go on, tell me.
I pour all the fucking bits out, and I'm like, right,
no.
let's figure it out. And then I get frustrated and I never fucking finish it.
Do you know what I do? Do you want to know what I do? I get someone in to do it for me.
Yeah, so what? So my old man used to do it for me all the time, but he's getting on a bit now, and it frustrates him as much as it frustrates me now, and I can't see him do it anymore.
Do you really pour it all out?
Oh, yeah. You know
You're
why?
in a whole world
It's
of pain
overconfidence. It's overconfidence because I always look at it and because it's marketing, innit? They don't make it look that complicated. You're like, it's like 4 bits. How bad can it be?
Yeah.
So then you pour the box out and it's not 4 bits, it's 400 bits. And then I'm like, shit, I've already poured it all out now. So then you just try and piece it together and there's never the fucking right bits in it.
It's not, is it?
Honestly, but I've just learned a life lesson that's going to save me hours of IKEA.
Do you even pick up the book?
I do.
You do?
Only after I've frustrated myself to the point where I think I'm off the end of the scale and I was never going to build it at that point. I'm like, I'm already looking at it going, I'm defeated on this project already.
Or don't buy flat pack.
Buy it ready-made.
Listen, I'm sure you can afford that.
I don't know. IKEA's expensive, I usually go furnished because I move around too much, to be honest. But
do you know what? Furnished is a great option. I've learned through moving throughout the years.
Did you furnish your own place in Dubai, or did it come furnished?
Half. We had it there was a. Do you know what? Actually, I say
trying to get anything delivered over there, I find really, really irritating.
It is. But I say half. My pal had a lot of his, and he's a very successful man. And a lot of his furniture, because he moved into a fully furnished place. A lot of his furniture in storage. So I was like, why don't I take that out for you and, air it and look after it? And he's like, yeah, no worries. And
how long's that been in your house now?
Yeah, this whole warehouse came to my house and he's like, paintings and I was just like, yep, we'll have them.
Yeah. Is that from the Louvre? Yeah, I'm holding it from, fair enough. Put that in the toilet.
I'll replace them and sell them. Earn a few quid.
Get it under Bizzle, mate. We'll get a fortune for it. But yeah, so how did... the transition, obviously, so you came out, you started the TV stuff. One of the things that, I thought you did really well, because I think it kind of skyrocketed you, is you didn't get just stuck in the TV show. No. I think it could have been really comfortable for you to be like, the TV show is the TV show, the TV show's going to solve all the problems. You obviously did really fucking well, right?
Yeah.
You could have just gone,
yeah,
that's me set.
Yeah.
But you pushed yourself out on social media with your personal brand really heavily.
Yeah, really well.
And I think probably, I don't actually know what happened with the TV show, but I'm assuming there's a story.
Do you know what?
I'm assuming that fucking saved you though, really, because it gave you almost leverage to the point where if they turn around and they were like, well, you're not allowed to do that, you'd be like, who gives a fuck? I've already built my own brand, I could do my own thing.
Do you know, I could sort of see it coming, where the TV show was, the cameras would follow us around, no scripted whatsoever.
Yeah.
We'd write the course, follow us around, and then after series, they're like, right, we want this person to make it to the forefront. We need to do this. Health and safety became a huge nightmare.
Was it actual health and safety, or did they bend the health and safety to try and kind of get you what they wanted to do?
No. Well, at first we did.
Because I'm assuming health and safety law was pretty static throughout the whole thing.
We'd do everything. That's why we lead by example. We show them what to do. And, so we are the health and safety as well. Yeah. But then the whole tick boxing came in, not only with health and safety, but with the media agenda, with all the wokeism that came in, the political correctness. And you're talking about the most elite of the elite special forces. You're talking about hardcore sort of aggression and violence and, all controlled, but, risk adverse to a point where if I showed you, you'd be like that, but we had numbed that down massively, but it got to a point where it was just getting ridiculous. And I saw it coming.
Yeah.
So that's when I started pumping my other, I thought, I've really got to make a brand of it. Because if this goes wrong, and I've got all my eggs in one basket. So I've got to really sort of, distribute them out into something that I know that I can take on by myself. You know, I knew at that stage, you know, a couple of years in, I was never going to, you know, get my own show. It's okay, so put some books out, put some tours out, you know, and again, I grew that whole package to a point where I became my own brand.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what saved me, because when it went wrong in the UK, I just bounced over to Australia. Australia, like, we'll have some of that.
Yeah, we'll have
we'll have some of that. You know,
pretty sure that's how Australia started, isn't it?
Exactly. But it's exactly like that. You know, they're not as they're more outgoing. They're more laid back. They're more, you know, they've not got to the stage yet. And I'm not saying it's coming, but they haven't got to the stage yet of you know, the state that the UK's in, where it's, you know, you can't say anything. You can identify as what you want. You can, you know, it's just the boundaries have just gone. They've still got boundaries there, and it's the rawness and authenticity that people relate to. Yeah. That's why the show does so well. You know, Channel 4 now, they're not doing SAS anymore. They're just doing the celebrity. You know, the SAS Who Dares Wins was the first 5-6 series was normal everyday civilians.
Yeah,
they've stopped doing that because it's gone so scripted, and so sort of
it doesn't make sense anymore.
They're not getting the viewing figures in, so they've cut it. They're just doing a celebrity one now. The celebrity one was a spin-off. You know, we're doing so well with it that we thought we'd do a celeb. You know, so it's lost its brand. It's lost its, you know, the UK, but we still bounce over to Australia and do it.
Do they take it like proper serious over there? Because I imagine like they love a challenge. Like,
but they allow me.
They're a lot more outdoorsy as well. I think Australians, aren't they? Like,
yeah, they are. They're a lot. You hit the nail on the head there. They're a lot more outdoorsy, so therefore they're a lot more laid back, a bit more hardcore.
Yeah,
you know, you try and thrash them up and down them. You know, they're just like, you know, they do find it hard, but they've been brought up like that. But it was they just allow me to run the course. What the whole brand was originally all about, why it was so loved in the UK, is because, you know, it was just like so raw, wasn't it?
It was
like,
fucking brutal.
These guys aren't messing
couple.
around.
No.
They're being, but where now it's like, oh, you know, people raise their eyebrows now because they know the way the TV's going. But listen, it is what it is. Like you said, it done me a favor, because once sort of the pandemic was out of the way, you know, everything was backlogged. People are like, we know what we're getting with Ant. We know exactly what we're getting. We're getting realness. We're getting authenticity. We're getting, you know, if you want me to do a scripted show, then I'll do a scripted show. But this show is about authenticity. It's about having been through the Special Forces selection process. So if you haven't been there, or if you know you haven't, then just let us be the experts in this.
Yeah.
You know, but obviously,
I think maybe like after a certain amount of seasons, the people kind of went, "Oh, we know what it is now. We get it now. We've done 4 or 5 of these. Like, we'll take over because we're the TV people now. We've learned what we need to learn." It's
exactly that. That's exactly what happened. We created the format.
Like Big Brother in a field after a while, isn't
it? They had the format because and then they said, you know, after a while they're like, we know how to do this now. We think we know how to do it.
I think the format was you guys. Like, it was the people that they brought in to do it. Because I've got nothing against the American dude that came in. I think I watched one episode and he's like, "I've killed loads of people," and I was like, "Yeah, that's off."
I was like that when that came on.
I've had enough of that one. That's gone too far for me. Literally, like the opening line was something about I've killed more people, or like men have tried to kill me and failed, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the whole premise of war, isn't it? Really, like, don't they try and kill you? That's the whole point of fighting.
You know, you just don't care how many people that you killed. Like, some girl on holiday, actually, it's quite funny. One of the guys who went on holiday with was just left in the Marines.
If you can't hear Shannon, it's because she's telling her own story on a podcast, by the way.
And a girl actually said to him, like, how many people have you killed? And I was like, I was asking that on holiday.
Yeah.
Because people are morbid.
Yeah.
Clearly.
But
thanks for that, though. I'm sure the podcast will really enjoy you and your personal story.
We've got you. Listen, I've got you. But
we heard you, Shannon. We heard you.
But I think they tried to sell it into America, and it's been shit canned. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been taken off. I sort of knew it was going that way. And again, bouncing over to Australia has been great, because now I do SAS Australia. I've been given a new commission called $1 Million Island, which is a cross between Hunger Games and Lost. It's like 100 people on an island. They have to fight and challenge for money, and That
sounds really good.
Do you know what?
When did you say that's launching
brilliant.
tonight?
No, it launched about 4 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
So I think it's over like 8 weeks. It's
so they're proper in the meat of it now.
It's brilliant. So now I've got those 2 commissions with Channel 7. I'm exclusive to Channel 7 out there because, again, people need, and it's not so much, the reason why I do things like this, and I would like to keep it real, and I like to keep it raw, and I like to keep it honest, is because people need that. People, they do want a bit of escapism, and they'll go and watch a film if you want that. This is people can relate to their everyday struggles. They go, that lady there or that man there, they've been through the mix, but they're still standing after day 4 or day 5. And this guy who's got all the muscles and strong as not, he's crumbled because if people can relate to the realness of it, you start to script it. Thing about it, people aren't stupid. People go, right, she's only there because the colour of her skin. He's only there because of his gender bloody preference. And it's just that it's like capability and performance, isn't at the forefront anymore. It's this whole tick boxing exercise that is at the forefront, and then they go on to capability and performance. But all you're doing is diluting standards. You're diluting, performances. You're diluting, the quality of individual when people see that. Because
that was always the good bit about the early ones, wasn't it? It was like you'd see like the big meatheads and they'd be like fucking falling apart, and then they'd be, when they came in and like you interviewed them and you found out more about them, and you'd be like 9 episodes in, and this person you'd have barely seen on the screen before, they just kind of clocked away through it, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, like this is what I've been through, and this is, and then they'd like go on and do the final. You'd be like, fucking hell, like you wouldn't have clocked them at the start of it, and they've been through all of that stuff like in their life, and they're really mentally resilient about it, and they get that stuff done. Like that was the good bit of it that you almost couldn't tell. Whereas
that was the messaging from the show, right? Yeah. It was like, doesn't matter what you look like. It's almost so inclusive that people miss the whole point of it. It doesn't matter what you look like, who what you've done. You could be the smallest person, but what have you been through? Yeah. We can't see inside your head. We can't see inside your soul. We don't know your story. We don't know what you've been through. But if you're standing at the end, and you're this tall, and the big guys have all dropped out, or you're a woman, and people go, wow, if they can do it, so can I. And that was the message behind it. It doesn't matter what you look like. Do not judge a book by its cover, because you don't know people's stories. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know who they are. You don't know how mentally resilient they are. You don't know the mindset that they possess. Because ultimately, this is just an avatar. This is just a carcass. And we build that carcass up, and a lot of people do that just to protect what's inside because they're scared to expose what's inside. But when we show them what they're capable of, when we push them physically, psychologically, and emotionally, that's what we do. Those 3, we push them physically, psychologically, and emotionally. It's called the trilogy. And if you can connect all 3, then you're winning in life. The moment you get disconnected in one, you're gonna, you're gonna suffer, or you're gonna go through some hardship in order to reconnect that. But that's what the show is about. It's about showing people what they're capable of, people realizing how amazing humans are, how amazing we are, and the potential that we have if we go to those dark, deep corners of our souls, of ourselves, of our minds, and really, really battle and play around in there, because you will come out and you'll be like, wow, this is what I'm capable of. These are the tools that I now possess in order to tackle life. And that's what happened about the recruits. I've got such positive story about the people that went through SAS Who Dares Wins, because all we'd done was identify the tools, and we threw it back at them. So this is what you're capable of. And you just see them in life. You'd follow them on social media, or you see this going.
Did it actually do that? That's so cool.
Huge. It was
because you don't really see them after they leave, do you? Like the regular ones.
No, you don't. You don't. But obviously because we follow them, and we sort of keep an eye on their progress. It changes their life. If we could do
I wish there was a fucking follow-up show or something like that. That'd be sick.
There's an idea, right? Because you change them for the better, and that's why I still keep doing what I do. is because I like changing people and make them become a better version of who they are. It's down to them to change their lives. I never say that I change someone's life because that's down to the individual. But what I do say is, I make them a better them. I make them a better person. Therefore, they have the tools now to change their lives, which is why I still do the show, because it's fucking hard work. It's hard to go back into that military mindset. It's hard to drag up, the past, and it's draining. That course drains me because I have to put myself in a military mindset in order to give them the military experience. Yeah. People say to me, do you jump back into the chief instructor character? And I'm like, it's not a character. It's a mindset. I jump back into my military mindset, which I've left in the past, which drains me, which, brings back some hardcore memories. Yeah, but I do it for you. I do it for you. I do it for you. I do it for you because I know what you're capable of. I can see it in there, and I just need to dig around a little bit, identify those tools and throw them back at you.
So that's now probably more of a passion project than it is anything else. I'm assuming, with the time that you invest into that, there's actually way bigger personal gain things that you could be doing with that. And that's just like this is kind of the way I give back to.
It's exactly that. Exactly that. You've got me down to a T. And that's why I do my festivals. My Mind Over Muscle festivals is because people come together, like-minded people. They want to be pushed. I can identify it. I'm an emotionally intelligent guy. I know when something's up. I know where to push the triggers because I've been there. So I've been through so much. I talk about life experience being invaluable because I felt like probably everyone's felt. I felt, I've been into these situations. I've dealt with loss. I've dealt with hardship. I dealt with pain. I dealt with suffering. I dealt with, being on the, nearly losing my own life. I've dealt with all of that. So I've got the gift of identifying that within someone and then helping them through that situation. And again, you look at my books. My books are exactly for that. So people can go, if Frank can do it, I can do it. It's relatable. Look at my tours, my motivational tours. It's to not necessarily to motivate people, but to give people a greater understanding of who they are. That's what I do. I wouldn't say I'm a motivator. I'm a mindset sort of coach in letting them realise who they are and what they're capable of. My day camps, everything. Even my TV, my TV, SAS Australia, my $1 Million Island. $1 Million Island is the very same concept. They have to survive on an island for a month and challenge each other. It's hardcore, but it's just pushing them out their comfort zones to make them a better person.
I feel like it's all very themed in that kind of direction. Like, is that purposeful, or do you just find yourself saying yes to projects that fit those values?
Yeah, I think the latter. I think
you get all these opportunities and you tend to gravitate more towards.
I think so, mate. Yeah, I think it's a good question because I've never been asked that. But I'm in a position where I can pick and choose. So, and I always pick and choose the more hardcore ones. But I could take the easy option and do this and do that, but I take the more hardcore ones because I know I'm going to get a bigger reward out of them, and so are the people around me. And that's what I always say, surround yourself with positive people, and this isn't people who just smile and laugh, and there's a difference between happy and being positive. People positive people who've got your best interests at heart. They generally want to see you do well and want to push you. That have got that positive energy that you can bounce off of, and that you're not afraid to be vulnerable in front of. There's nothing materialistic that person can give you. It's just being in their presence. Really, really benefits you as a person. And that's why I say always surround yourself with positive people because they will push you and elevate you to the next level.
How do you keep yourself challenged at this point?
Do you know what? I go off and do dangerous things every now and then. And again, not dangerous where... Well, they are fucking dangerous when your life is at risk.
No, actually, yeah, they are. Yeah, they're fucking real dangerous.
They are dangerous. I climb mountains. I've climbed Mount Everest. I've climbed K2. I've climbed Kanchenjunga. I've climbed a few. Sorry, not Kanchenjunga. Aconcagua. But I don't only climb them. I wait for a storm to come, or I wait for
choose the hardest way up.
Yeah, always. But I've learned the hard way.
What the conditions like? Good. Fuck it.
Yeah,
leave it till next week.
Honestly, it's like right because
there's a blizzard. Yeah.
Where's it gonna challenge me? So I always find something that's gonna. But as I'm, getting, I wouldn't say older, but as I'm progressing through life, my passions have changed. I've pushed myself physically to my limits, and apart from being in a fucking wheelchair, then there's not much more I can push
I
myself.
did that for a year, mate. I wouldn't recommend it.
What you did?
Yeah, both my knees replaced. So don't.
Are you in a wheelchair for a year?
Yeah. It's a relearn how to walk. It was fucking hanging.
Wow.
Don't do it.
No.
Highly recommend it. Leave the storms.
I don't want to do it. Yeah, leave the storms. But, pushing myself to that extent physically, I'm done. Psychologically, I'm in a whole new different realm now, because, I believe, well, it is, I don't believe it's factual. Once your mind and your body, they get to a certain age where your body starts to deteriorate, wear and tear and stuff. But the mindset should still keep continuing until you're no longer here. Now, I'm not talking about, diseases or mental illnesses, but I'm just talking about, general in life in general. So as I sort of start to plateau out with my physical sort of
plus, there's only so much you can do before you run out of mountains to fucking climb as well.
And also before you before you
fall off one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or before you put yourself in right trouble. But the mindset, I'm fascinated with how I'm going to think in 10 years' time. I'm fascinated with the mindset that I'm going to have in 20 years' time. And what I'm fascinated about is what I'm going to be able to pass on. Now, the mindset that I have now, I pass it on. That's what I do. But I'm fascinated. That's why I keep pushing myself. And again, not necessarily physically, it could be psychologically with new projects. I'm getting into acting.
I was going to actually ask you, was that something that you looked at and thought, that's, acting creatively outside of your own persona, that's a fucking big step.
Huge. It's petrifying, right? It's like,
now
I'm putting myself on a world stage now, and I'm, but I'm excited about it because I'm so petrified about it. And I talk about this is when you challenge yourself psychologically and emotionally. This has got nothing to do with physicality. It's not a physical challenge at all. It's a psychological challenge. Am I willing to fail at this? Yes, I am, because that's everyday part of life. Am I willing to make myself look like a right dickhead if I get it wrong? Well, yeah, because I'm committing to it. All of these things, these fears of not being good enough.
Look at The Rock's first film, mate. You was shit.
But you got to start somewhere. Right?
I know.
You've got to start somewhere.
There you go. Calling it here first.
So it's one of those that I think that they're the projects now that I'm pushing myself rather than the physical aspect.
Well, that's what I was actually going to ask you. Did you take on that acting challenge? Is that something you were like, yeah, I want to get into acting? Or was it like it got approached you and you were like, that's really fucking left field for me, so absolutely I'm going to do that?
What do you think?
I think so. After speaking to you now, definitely
it's the
latter, you can see it's like, yeah, why? Because I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, exactly that, right? I've done some filming, and the guy said to me, it was for, I think SAS or something like that, and it's the director behind there. He said, do you know the script? I said, yeah. I said, do you not want it? I said, no, I just play with it. I know the message. Yeah. And he said, go on. And I sat in front of it, bang, 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 done it in one take. And he was just like, right, you're done. He's like, we went, and then 2 days later, he called me up. He said, Ant, have you ever thought about acting? I said, nah. I said, it's been brought up a couple of times. I said, but not really. He said, do me a favor, can you read this script? And I'm thinking, okay, he wants some, he said it's a military type film. He said, can you read? I thought, right, he's going to want some advice on how. I said, yeah, no worries at all. And I read the script. And I said to him, I said, this Rob Shaw, which is who's the lead role, this character. I said, he's a fascinating character. I said, it almost reminds me of me. And he said, I'm glad you said that. I said, why is that? He said, do you want to play this character? And the fear that hit me first of all, okay, the fear, because that's what hits you first before, if you can turn it into excitement, the fear is, that you're stopping, right? There's that fear where you stop and you go, and you turn away and you walk away. And then there's that feeling of get ready. Your fear is priming you to step into the unknown. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I felt that. Then after I paused, it was like, get ready to commit to the unknown, right? Because that's what fear is about. You either go that way or you go that way. And then I felt that fear then I felt the excitement almost immediately after. That's what I say. Fear is your body priming itself, get ready to step into the unknown. When you can feel that, you never conquer fear, but then there's not much that will phase you. There's not much that you won't commit to. Okay, and it's that commitment phase. It's that yes or no, right? And it's like, yes, I'll take it. And it was there because I felt that within that fear. I was like, he's asking me to do this. And again, that matrix in your head, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of stepping into a new career, fear of imposter syndrome, fear of, it's all fear. It's all elements of fear, just different types of fear. And it's like going down like the matrix. And it was like, get ready, boom, that excitement. I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. And because all that is, so I try and explain to people, all that is nothing, it demands nothing physical of you. It's a psychological decision that you make. It's like, do I say yes or do I say no? The easy option is always no. Okay, but when you don't commit, you don't learn. When you don't learn, you don't grow. Whether I fuck this up and I can't act and I'm useless, and first of all, how cool is it to do a film? And second of all, how much am I going to learn from it?
Yeah.
By how vulnerable am I going to be? When when you strip everything down, you start a new career, a new path, then you can, if you're willing to strip yourself down, if you're willing to do that, not a lot of people are, then you can only add to it as you go along. You can only add to yourself, can't you? When you go along and go, oh, I've fucked up here, I've done this wrong, I've done that wrong. You can only add, even if you come out and you've just put the muscles on and you're missing the skin, then I'm working on progress. I'm not perfection, I'm progressing. I've progressed through this. So that's how I test myself psychologically now. It's by taking on the daunting things that scare me. But what I love about it is, what if it works?
Yeah.
What if I'm a great actor? What if this film blows the box office, right? So
to be fair, if you go off, that's what I was just thinking when you said that then, like you've identified this skill that you've got of like feeling the pressure of it and then like leaning into it and doing it. You've now kind of built up a backlog of evidence that every time this happens and I fucking do it, it seems to go all right. Like it's a positive, and I'm sure you've had loads of negative experiences.
Well, the thing about it is not necessarily it seems to go all right, but in my head, I take an experience from it. So I might fail drastically, I might get it wrong, but I don't care what other people say, what other people think. If I do get something wrong, I'm not saying I don't listen, I do. That's why, I take things on. But I don't, I'm not scared of people talking behind my back, let's say. I'm not scared of missing out. The fear of missing out makes you, I'm not scared to commit. I'm not, I think that, I don't look to the outside world and think, right, I'm not going to do it because of, I look internally and I go, right, fucking hell, what an opportunity, right? And I don't get carried away, like I've mentioned before, with failure and success. That is a man-made product where you put 100 different people in, they're probably been indoctrinated into saying certain things, but when they look within, they probably won't understand it themselves. And once you can do that, once you can, listen to your own voice and look at the world from the inside out rather than the outside in, then there's not much that you won't commit to. I'm not saying you'll achieve everything that you set out to do, because you won't. It's life. But there's not much you won't commit to. Once you commit, that's that first barrier. I talk about layers, that first barrier that's taken down. Whew. And then when you're in that situation, it's never as bad as it.
No.
When you're petrified of doing stuff and you do it and you think, actually, I'm buzzing off of that because it wasn't actually that bad. I've learned a lot from it. Next time I do it, I'm going to do this different, that different, this different, this different. And I think once you can fine tune your mind into really understanding and realizing that no one will ever understand you better than you understand yourself. Ever do that. It's impossible. Yeah. No one can ever understand. So why we allow people to control us and make them think that they do is beyond me, because I've been there. But once you get past that stage, then life becomes exciting. The fear subsides. You repeat you expose who you are, your emotions. You repeat the process. You learn and you grow from it.
Do you think it's fear either way? Like there's either a fear of doing it and failing, or there's a fear of not doing it and potentially not making the progress or getting the kind of carrot on the stick. So almost it's a sense of either way, there's a fear element. You kind of get to pick the fear, and only one of them ends up positive. The other one just kind of keeps you safe.
Now the other one, it doesn't keep you safe. The other one gives you regret.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Okay, I don't live life with regret. People say you must regret some. I'm like, no. Honestly, I'm not saying I've done things massively wrong, but I've done them.
Yeah.
I've learned from them. I don't live with regret. The moment you don't commit to something, or you think, you're scared to do it, you will live life with regret. And regret is something that you cannot take back. Regret is something that you cannot just, put to one side and eliminate. That will always be there. I regretted that I never took this opportunity. Where would I be? The would have, could have, should have. That world doesn't exist. But when you don't commit, you create that subconsciously in your own mind. I should have done that. I could have done that. It's not a real world. It doesn't exist. That world doesn't exist, and that's when regret comes in, because you think to yourself, right, I'm scared. Am I scared to do it? And it's like, and then there'll always be something pulling you back, but some things might not be for you. You might, but if you, like you said, if you feel that fear, then that's no matter what fear it is, that's your body asking itself a question. It's your body going, right, like I said, it's your body, preparing itself for the unknown. Take that fucking step. Take the fucking step. I don't care if you fucking fall head first into water and you fucking and you hit your head off a fucking stumbling block. That bruise, that's your lesson. Right, boom. I'm glad I've done that, because now I know that's not the path. Now I know that's fucking dangerous. Now I know, bang, because I've got the fucking scars. I've got the experience to live it by. No regret there, because it's like, fucking hell, I've done it. But that path, when you open that door and you look down that corridor and it's got all those doors on it, if you take that step back, you'll constantly be thinking about that fucking path. Should I have taken it? And it does. I don't care who you are, how much you fucking try and block it out your mind, you'll always live with regret. And that's one thing I never want to do.
I never know how to explain this to people, right? But I feel like you might get it from speaking to you. I sometimes feel like people live in this might just sound fucking bonkers, so edit it out if it goes a bit weird. I feel like sometimes people live with this like fucking blanket over them, where they don't really see what their life could be capable of doing. It's like they live like underwater almost, and they're not aware of this like kind of world that lives above it. And when you say to people, look, this is what you could do, and this is what it could lead to, and this is what you could achieve, it's like they can't see above the water to even figure out. It's like we have some kids in our program, right, that are like 21 years old. They make £10,000 a month, like doing personal fucking training online. Like when I got into PT, I got told by a manager at Virgin Active that there's no money in it. It's like, you won't make any money. If you like PT, fuck it, great, you get to wear shorts to work.
There wasn't.
And some of them like get it, and some of them see the opportunity and they're like, yeah, I can do that. Like that's really easy. And once they do it once, they're like, it's not that difficult. It's like, I see the possibilities that I can make. And I feel like most of the world just kind of live in this zone where they either don't believe it or they don't kind of see what opportunities are available to them.
Living in the void.
Oh, there's a fucking word. I feel like I've been vindicated because there's a fucking thing for it.
Yeah, living in the void. You live in the void, right? Yeah. You live on autopilot. Ultimately, it's a comfort zone, but it's called living in the void.
I feel so happy that I've actually put a word.
Directly when you mentioned it, majority, 90% of people live in the void. Yeah, they live in this void, and it's like it's comfortable. It's regulated. It's easy. It's called living in the void. They've got this blanket over. They've got a blanket over there. They can't pop. They might pop their head, but they're sucked into the fucking void because they're not willing to commit. They're not willing to take that blanket off. Yeah. They're not willing to take that step, because that's all it is taking that fucking commitment, opening up that door.
Yeah, but you've got to go through, and then there's a whole other world of people that live outside the door that are like, oh, great.
I mentioned it in one of my books. So,
should have read it.
There's a whole different world behind that door.
And like Andrew Tate did the Matrix thing, which fucked it up for me, because that's the way I visioned it in my head. It is a bit like the Matrix, and then kind of that all went a bit shit.
But a lot of people, this is where I could get your vision, because a lot of this is what I say. A lot of people, they got the door and they open the door. This is what you're saying when they open the door, they see what's in there, but they don't step into the room.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what they do. Right?
But I think everyone in life gets that opportunity where the door opens for them, and some people go, right, I'm having that. Yeah. And some people go, that looks a bit different out there. I'm just going to stay here where my family are and where my friends understand and where all of this is and where, you know, the people around me live, because we all do this.
But being controlled, again, we go back to control. It's got whole different layers to it. Being controlled by the outside world.
Mate,
being controlled by other people.
I feel like you're the kind of person that's bottled a skill on how to like get people to go, there's your door, go through it.
100%.
And I can't do that. I'm really good at business strategy with people, but I'll hold my hands up and admit, like, I feel like people for us have to have one foot through that door already for us to go, okay, here's now the strategies you do to get through the door. But that's such a like.
Do you know what? It's a mindset as well. You know, and again, also, it's like I say to people, like leadership. We talk about leadership, and I say you got to lead by example. People just think that's just a cliche throwaway, and then I explain leading by example. Sometimes you have to step into that room for that individual. But you can't fucking walk into that room. Sometimes you just have to breach that threshold for them. Yeah. Okay. And then what do? They put their foot on there. You take your foot away, bang. You push them into the room. That's the difference between, you know, trying to talk someone through the process and then trying to get them to action it.
Like inspire them to do it.
Exactly. The action
skills,
part is two different skills, but the action part's the easiest part because you've already made a decision. You know, you've already made a decision. You've already seen the benefits of it. You're scared. You're petrified about it. You've made that decision to do that. So that step is actually the easy part. Because once you take that step, you normally take a second step, a third step, fourth step, fifth step, right? But it's actually just getting them through that threshold. But you do that, believe it or not, by scaring people. You know, it's not. And I'm not talking about scaring people into being controlled. By letting them feel. You know, by exposing their emotions. You know, a lot of people hide their emotions. They're scared to expose them because, you know, people take advantage of them or they don't like how it feels. But I look at emotions. Take whatever emotion you want, fear, anger, anxiety, whatever it is. There's loads of emotions out there. We've got an army full of emotions. You take an emotion and you expose it, and whether that's being scared of heights, for example. You know, I'm not asking you to jump off the cliff. I'm asking you to take a step up the first step. Okay? If you've never done that before, you're taking a layer off that piece of fruit, right? And then you might step back. You might do 2 weeks later. You might do the next step. Okay, it might take you 2 years to get to the top where you're standing. You might not even bungee jump off. You might not even abseil off of it. Well, you know, but every time you're exposed, every time you take that step, you're taking a layer off. Okay, of your emotions, and every time you take a layer off, you expose it and repeat the process. You're getting closer and closer to the nut. Yeah. Okay, you're getting closer and closer to understanding what the fuck this fruit is about or what this emotion is about. Because you're taking the layers off. And I'm not saying that you'll get to the nut and go, right, I've done this. But the closer you get, the more you start to understand about that emotion. Yeah. The more you start to understand about that emotion, the more you start to understand about yourself, because your emotions are you. Okay, no one else can understand them. You have to put yourself through that process of exposing yourself and repeating the process, and you're taking it off more and more and more. And then once you that emotion, you start to take 3 or 4 layers off. You start to understand it. You start to make it work for you, because our emotions work against us. They do. That's the natural when you expose an emotion the first time, it will work against you. Full stop. Promise you that. But the more you expose it, it's just the more you start to understand it, and then you can harness it. Rather it working against you, it starts to work for you, because, you know, with fear, it's like, when I take that third step, you know, I've taken 5 steps now, but when I used to be petrified to take that first step, but now I know exactly how I'm going to feel when I do that. Boom, I've got that, I've harnessed that. Second step, I know as well. Boom, boom, boom. So you're building that emotion, so it starts to work into your favor. So the emotion starts like a thing. It starts to, once you take those 10 steps and you've got 15 steps, boom, it's flipped over. You're in control now. Do you know what I mean? You're in control of your emotions. You're in control of yourself. But it's a lifelong process. Yeah, I agree. It's a lifelong fucking process. People go, I've conquered fear. You've conquered nothing. Let me tell you, you've conquered nothing. The moment you think you've conquered yourself, you think you're perfect, you fucking go back into the void. You start living in the void because you think
we don't know if there's another fucking one above us that we're all sat in, and there's another fucking door.
Of course there is. There is.
It's like fucking Pandora's fucking box.
But there is. Of course there is. Of course there is. Because hopefully my purpose in my life is to become the best version of who I can be, knowing that I can never be the perfect version of who I can be, because it doesn't exist. So I'm always chasing that fucking carrot. Okay, I'm always a little percentage here, 0.5% here, 2% here, 1% there, but I'm becoming a better version of who I am. So I can pass the best version of who I am right now onto my family, onto my friends, onto my loved ones, onto my work colleagues. That's what I thrive to do. is to become the best. And it doesn't mean I'm always happy. It doesn't mean I'm always thinking. I'm always challenging negativity. I'm always churning away. I'm always trying to find out a positive solution that works for me because it makes me a better person. And that is my purpose in life. Nothing out there gives me purpose. There might be challenges, that can test me, but I'm always working on becoming a better version of who I am, because if you can pass the best version of who you are onto your loved ones, which you'll want to do one day, onto your children, then you've done your job. That's all you can leave behind. You can't leave. You could leave a fucking mansion, and I'll guarantee you, generation or two, that'd be gone.
Yeah.
So that's, and it's only because I've been through that and I see the effects it has on my children and on my work colleagues and on the people that I work with, that I pursue this, because I know how powerful it is. I know how needed it is. Another thing, I know how needed it is. So when people look at me and go, "No, it's a bit hardcore," I'm like, I'll be doing this till the day I die.
Yeah.
Fact. So, the moment you stop working on yourself, you're going to fucking live in that void. And again, your doors might be different to mine. Your levels will be different to mine. Everyone's levels are different. But as long as you're progressing in life, then you're winning. And life is one big game. I look at life as one big game. I don't look at failure and success. I look at life as a game. You win some and you lose some. But the more you keep playing, the more you'll get used to it, the more you should win. That losing streak will turn over to a winning streak. Just because you've had 3 or 4 losing streaks doesn't mean that you quit playing the game of life. You keep fucking playing. You play the hell out of it. Because the more you play the hell out of it, the more you get used to it, the more you'll understand it, the more you understand yourself, the more you understand the connection, which is a completely different level, the connection between Earth and ourselves, that fucking energy, that synergy. The more you start to, it goes spiritual as well, which is another podcast, but it goes way beyond the actual and the physical. It goes into the spiritual realm as well, which is fucking powerful.
But I think living is a skill. Like,
it is a skill.
It's not just being alive. Like, living your life is a skill that you get better and worse at, I think, at times as well, depending on the demands on you.
It depends which direction you take. You know?
Because if you keep going down the path that you're doing, you get more skilled at it and it gets easier. But if you go, right, I'm going left now.
But then it runs out. You get to a dead end where you're just like, and then at that dead end, guess what's at the dead end?
Another
fucking void. Right, so you got to go when you hit.
I'm going to go home and I'm going to be such a rabbit hole of this void stuff.
It's called the wall, right? When you hit the wall, you've drained that destination, and when you've hit a wall in life, and I've got a book called The Wall. When you hit that wall in life, no matter how big or little it is, you're at risk of falling back into the void. You're at risk of taking a few steps back and falling into the void. You've got to take a few steps back. You've got to look around. You've got to go, fuck me, that door scares me. Boff, push it open. Scares me even more. I've got to jump in. I've got to go. Bang. And you might even, that path that you've done kilometers and kilometers, you might only do 3 or 4 meters. You might only do 10 meters, and you might turn around and take the next door and take the next door. But it's this whole fucking network. Like you mentioned the rabbit hole, you mentioned the matrix, you mentioned I say the state of your life is purely a reflection of your state of mind. So, if your state of mind is negative, then you're going to live a nightmare. You're going to live life fucking, in a bad way. The state of your mind really, is a reflection of your state of life. So make it a positive one. Do you know what I mean? Make it a challenging one. Make it a fucking hard one, because when you go through through life and it's hard and you come out the other end, that's where the positivity comes. That's where the reward comes. That's when you feel like, fucking hell, I've done something, I've achieved something, I've become something. That's the really important thing of this scale, is what am I becoming? Not what's my job, what have I got, who am I becoming? Do I want to be known for who I was, or do I want to be known for who I am? And it's that becoming, that's the fruit, that's it. And if you focus on that, then everything else would just be a challenge, and you'll navigate your way through life.
Mate, I think we'll leave it there, because I don't think I can top that. That was fucking brilliant. I think I need to go do some work now. I feel inspired. No, thank you very much, mate, for coming on.
Pleasure, mate.
I would obviously let you plug something to the 7 people that are going to listen to this, but I'm sure your PR team are way better.
You, bro. Listen, all good. Don't need to plug anything.
Thank you very much.